welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host. We are continuing from Lundy Bancroft's wonderful book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men, on the question that he posed to us, where did he learn to be that way? In the last video, we covered the laws and legal system and how they collude with abusive women. Also covered religious beliefs, popular performers. And now we move on to popular plays and movies romanticize the abuse of women. Bancroft tells us about how many years ago he had watched a play called Frankie and Johnny Got Married, and he did this in Boston. And he tells us that the storyline goes like, Johnny's in love with Frankie and knows that she is just the one for him. One evening he comes to her apartment to express this love and convince her to get involved with him, but she doesn't have any interest in it, and she tells him. Johnny then begins a relentless pressure campaign that lasts for the remainder of the play. He will criticize her and put her down, telling her that her fears of intimacy and commitment are the reasons why she avoids being with him. He lets her know that whatever knowledge she may have about who she is and what she needs, his judgment is way better. And of course, she remains unimpressed. So Johnny's coercion escalates. At one point, Frankie, who is exhausted after hours of all of this pressure, attempts to sleep. But Johnny blocks that path to the bedroom, grabs her arms. She then goes to the kitchen and makes herself a sandwich, figuring that if she can't sleep, she might as well have some food. It's not to be, however, because Johnny grabs the plate and throws it into the sink with the sandwich as well. Exasperated, Frankie orders Johnny to leave immediately. He refuses. She threatens to call the police to have him removed. And then he says,
"Go ahead, bring him over. In an hour they'll have released me, and I'll be back on your fire escape. Sooner or later you're going to have to deal with me."
So now that Frankie's discovered that she can't succeed in having any of her rights respected at all, what's going to happen next? Lo and behold, she has an epiphany, a life-changing breakthrough. She overcomes her fear of deep connection. It turns out Johnny was right about her fear of intimacy, as well as everything else, and she falls enraptured into his arms. Frankie and Johnny are in love. The curtain falls. Presumably, Bancroft says, Frankie is now permitted to eat and sleep, although we have no way to know this for sure. The most astounding part of the evening was still to come, however. To Bancroft's amazement, the roughly 250 well-educated, economically privileged adults who were packed into this theater rose into a roar of delighted applause. They were smiling from ear to ear. Not a person in that auditorium remained seated except Bancroft. He'd been working with abusive people for over 5 years at this point, and he knew perfectly well what they'd been witnessing. Nobody else seemed to notice anything amiss in the physical grabbing, sleep, and food deprivation, threats, superiority, and other forms of coercion that they had just watched on that stage. Was Frankie reluctant to be with Johnny because she feared intimacy? Or could it perhaps have been because he was arrogant, he was coercive, and physically violent? Who wouldn't fear intimacy with a bully like that? One ought to. The messages to young men, intentional or not, are that coercion and even a degree of physical violence and intimidation are compatible with deep love, and that a man can know better than a lady what's good for her. Now, the attitudes that drive the behavior of many of his clients were woven throughout the play he watched. And if a young boy doesn't see this play, most of the audience was adult, he nonetheless is influenced by the attitudes that his parents bring home with them when they come home from the theater. A boy's early training about sex roles and about relationships can feed abuse. Bancroft tells us that until recently, a boy has tended to learn from the most tender age that when he gets to adulthood, he's going to have a wife or a girlfriend who's going to do everything for him and it's going to make him happy. His partner will belong to him. Property. Her top responsibility will be to provide love and nurturing, while his main contribution will be to fill the role of the brains of the operation, using his wisdom and strength to guide the family. tightly interwoven with these expectations are other messages this little boy is likely to receive about the ladies. He may learn that boys are superior to girls, particularly if he grows up around men who exhibit such an attitude. And in many families, there is no worse insult you can give to a boy than to say, "Ah, you're acting like a girl." When he's old enough to know about sex, he may learn that the most valuable thing about females is their capacity to give that kind of pleasure to males. Depending on what his father or stepfather's like, what kinds of peers he chooses in the teen years, or what kinds of music he listens to, he may learn that when a lady partner does not defer to him, he can use physical degradation or even intimidation to punish her and ensure better cooperation in the future. Studies have found that nearly half of abusive men grow up in homes where the father or the stepfather is abusive. Home is a critical learning ground for values and sexual expectations. Boys are at risk to absorb the abusive person's attitude through his words and his actions. Even if the dad never explicitly says that females are inferior, for example, or that the man should have the last word in an argument, but his behavior can spread that message just as well. The sex role expectations to which boys and men have historically been subjected are captured powerfully by an article called "The Good Wife's Guide" from a 1955 issue of Housekeeping Monthly that includes such instructions as: don't ask him questions about his actions or question his judgment or integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. And don't complain if he's late home for dinner or even if he stays out all night. Count this to be minor compared to what he might have gone through that day. The wife is further encouraged to make sure that the children are quiet when he gets home, to keep the house perfectly orderly and clean, and not to complain if the husband goes out for evening entertainment without her, because she needs to understand his world of strain and pressure. Our society's sex role attitudes have certainly progressed greatly over the past 50 years. Yet, the expectations laid out in this particular article are precisely the ones that he finds in many of his abusive clients to this day. Cultural values that run this deep take generations to unearth and to get rid of. Some messages in media oriented towards children and teens support abuse by men. Bancroft talks about a popular book, Berenstain Bears series for children called Trouble with Homework. In this book, both the mother and the kids cower when father becomes angry. It's even that way on the cover. At one point, he knocks over a chair and clenches his fists above his head. At the end of the story, the kids have pleased Dad by doing what he wanted, and Mommy smiles happily to see them cuddled up with Daddy on the couch. In Bedtime for Frances, by Russell Hoban, the father threatens Frances that he will spank her if she does not stop asking for help with her fear of the dark, and she falls asleep alone with the fear of how the spanking just might hurt. Fairy tales also sometimes support the abusive mentality. In Beauty and the Beast, for example, the beast is cruel to the lady and isolates her from the world. But she loves him anyway, and her love ultimately transforms him into a good man, the precise myth that keeps some ladies entrapped in their abusive relationships. In The Little Mermaid, Ariel chooses to give up her voice, literally, in order to live on land so that she can marry the man that she loves. A lady with no voice is the dream girl of many abusive men. Even movies that are aimed at these children and teens commonly include messages that condone abusive ladies. In a recent Jim Carrey film, for example, a man sits down in a park next to a strange lady who is nursing her baby and then suddenly pushes the baby away from the woman and begins to suck her breast himself. This sexual assault is presented as humorous. Music videos and computer games have become the predominant sources of cultural training for children and teens. In the world of MTV, which doesn't play music, and VH1, that does, many of the Sexual messages are worse than ever, with males aggressive and in control, and the value of ladies restricted to their sexual allure. As was exposed in a recent documentary broadcast on MTV, pornographers are frequently being hired to make music videos, which predictably leads to portrayals of the ladies that make them look like they exist simply for men to use. Some music videos show abuse in an explicit manner. For example, one video shows a man stalking a lady throughout the song as she repeatedly tries to escape from him, including one point where she dives into a car to get away and he pulls open another door and jumps in after her. At the end of the video, she gives up and falls in love with him. The message thus is not only that stalking proves how much he loves her, but also that the stalker was actually doing what was best for her. Women in music videos never mean no when they say it. And when they run away, that means they want to be chased and caught. What could more perfectly capture the abusive mentality?
I am the narcoman. Don't you forget it.
I've got even more confessions for you tonight. So strap on your protective headgear and get ready.
Look, I know it's been about a year since I've been with you, and you probably wonder why your phone keeps ringing and you keep getting calls for
Sophia Smallstorm,
Tamika Smith,
Candy Cantaloupe.
all those names I've made up for my credit cards I used to get. It's the company's fault for not checking the names.
Yes, they're all calling to try to get my money, and you told them probably I didn't live there, but they didn't give up, did they? They never do. That's why I've learned to step up my game. I'm the reason for all of it. That's right. I took out all that credit. I used all those cards. I charged up all that mess and left your phone number. That's why you're getting those calls. But they're never going to believe you when you tell them I don't live there anymore. So good luck with that. But I figured you should know. Because they keep calling, I'm sure. Now that you know. Ta-ta, I've got another credit card to go apply for with a fake name. I have several. I am the narcopath. Hey, I'm trying to do a video with the new machinery I got about 6 months ago when DJ locked me up. Hang on. Hello, hang on. Hello, hang on just a second. Fuck that. Anyway, hi. I am the narcopath. I've got brand new equipment. I got it at Best Buy about 6 months ago. It's the most wonderful state-of-the-art equipment I've ever seen. I don't know if you can tell the difference. Oh, hang on. Hello?
Hi there. Am I speaking with the narcopath?
Who? Who is this?
This is Mike with
Who's
Best
calling?
Buy Credit Collection.
Oh, you got the wrong number.
I'm afraid I just heard you, ma'am. I just heard you identify yourself as the narcopath.
Oh, I did just say that. Ooh. You must have
You owe
misunderstood.
$10,000 on your account. It's gone 6 months behind. We really need payment right away. Have you thought about sending that in lately?
You are the collection department.
I heard
Best
you
Buy?
say your
Oh
name,
my
and I also
God.
heard you mention the equipment
I did
from
say
our
that,
store.
didn't I?
We need our money, and we need it now. What are you going to do about it? Your credit's suffering.
I'm sorry,
About
I
to
think you've
send it
got
to
the
an
wrong
attorney.
number. You've
We're
got the
about
wrong
to
number.
sue you. Does that mean anything to you? Look, lady, you need to pay the bill. If you'd like to, I can take a payment right now by phone. If not, you can talk to an attorney.
Well, look. Don't be hounding me. I can't help that it's 6 months behind. I haven't been employed in a while.
You owe $10,000
Whoa,
on your
whoa.
account.
Excuse me, do you realize I have been locked in a cage for the past 6 months? That is why you haven't gotten my payment. I just escaped this evening and was enjoying my new equipment.
We really need
Give
to
me
pay
a
it right away.
break.
Have you thought about sending that in?
I
later?
can't afford to pay that. I don't need to. You all sent me that card. It's your fault. If you didn't think I could be trusted with those funds, well then, honey, you shouldn't have given me the card.
I
now,
heard
should
you
you?
say your name, and I also heard
I'm
you mention
trying
the
to live
equipment
my life. I
from
don't
our
have
store.
the money.
We need
for
our
this
money, and we
thing.
need it now.
Don't you call here again. I'm going to call my attorney. I will call my attorney and tell him that you are harassing me. This is disgusting. I answered this phone out of courtesy, and you had the nerve to ask for money? Are you kidding? I ain't got it. So sue me. Do what you have to do. I don't care. I have no money for this crap, and, well, I am using the machinery now, but still, it's none of your business, and you don't need my money. You're not going to get it. So you do what you have to do, and don't ever call here again.